What's up, Grizzly Gang? If you're new here, you're the Cringe Squad, and I'm Lil Grizz. So let's put our virginity protectors on, and let's get right started with this video. Yo guys, I hope you're having a great day watching this video, and I hope that the Elo gods hasn't treated you too badly recently. Now, as you can see by the title, I'm making a Tryndamere guide today, and although Tryndamere isn't in the greatest spot right now, he has certainly seen better days. I still think that the setup I'm running is the optimal page for him, so if you want to get into playing Tryndamere, I would definitely recommend this setup. Now, I've made a lot of research, and I did this because I wanted to start playing Tryndamere a bit more, because I think that the champion is actually quite interesting, although it can be quite cheesy. And I looked up the best Tryndamere players on every server. There were two main pages that people seem to run in higher elos. The first one was a grasp page and the second one was a footwork page. So for me to decide which one of these I actually liked better, I not only tried them out in game, but I also analyzed the win ratios of the different players and the different pages. And I also had a preference for players that came from Korea, because that server tends to have a bit higher quality. The only outlier in terms of runes was a Diamond 2 Tryndamere one trick on NA, and he was running press the attack with sorcery as his secondary. Now, I tried this build out a couple of games and I did not end up liking it, because Tryndamere's main problem right now is actually his laning phase, and I think that this build was completely horrible in lane and basically made it really hard to get to the late game. So my conclusion from this was that I needed something that would help me get through the lane, and I found two pages that helped me immensely in this regard. The first page, and probably my favorite one, is the Grasp of the Undying page. After grabbing Grasp, on the second row you grab Demolish. You could go unflinching if you really want the tenacity, but overall Tryndamere is more of a split pusher than a team fighter, and taking CC from one person should not be enough of an advantage to grab it over Demolish, and since you will be split pushing most of the game, Demolish will help you a lot more. Font of Life is only useful for supportive champions, so it's not to be considered on Tryndamere. On the third row you take Iron Skin against AD matchups and you take Mirror Shell against AP matchups. Since Tryndamere struggles so much in the early game, conditioning is not a rune for him. On the fourth row you could grab either Second Wind or Revitalize. Overgrowth is not that useful for Tryndamere, because the HP increase is percentage based, and since we don't build much HP, we won't get that much value out of it. Overall, I personally prefer Second Wind, but I could definitely see the argument for Revitalize, especially in lanes where you really need to win the all-in. Revitalize increases the healing you receive from your own Q, and this can be really crucial in some really close fights, but overall Second Wind gives you a lot more sustain during the entire laning phase. As for our secondary tree, we go into precision. The reasoning behind this is that way we get the extra attack speed, and it's one of the most valuable stats on Tryndamere. We go into either Triumph or Overheal on the first row. Triumph is good if you think you can snowball the game, because it grants you some additional gold, and it gives you a lot of reset potential if you can find yourself in 1v2 situations and imagine yourself winning them. Overheal is overall more solid. It gives us a constant shield in lane, because we will most of the time rush lifesteal, and we will also have Grasp for the extra healing, which will give us a lot of shielding in lane. Then we go into the second row and we take Legend Alacrity. As I mentioned before, attack speed is extremely good on Tryndamere. Coup de Grace recently got nerfed. Cut Down is not that great. Last Stand is pretty good on Tryndamere, but overall I prefer the extra attack speed. Legend Alacrity is also more useful than the counterparts Tenacity and Bloodline, because attack speed is better than both Lifesteal and Tenacity. This does it for the Grasp page, and this is the one I would probably recommend for you guys to try out. It gives Tryndamere a lot of extra trading power in lane, and it helps him smooth out the curve to get into the mid and later stages of the game. The next page is the Fleet Footwork page, and after grabbing Fleet Footwork, on the second row we go either Triumph or Overheal, and we apply the same thought process as we did with the Grasp tree. On the third row we take Legend Alacrity, same logic again. On the fourth row we take Last Stand, because it's the best alternative between the three. Last Stand will increase our damage by a lot, especially during our ultimate, because we will be at a really low HP value for a long time. As for our secondary tree, we go into Resolve. The reasoning behind this is because Precision and Resolve are just the two best trees for Tryndamere. It helps increase his damage, and it also helps him with sustaining the laning phase. In the Resolve tree, we take either Iron Skin or Mirror Shell depending on matchup, and we take either Revitalize or Second Wind depending on preference. The rune section of the guide is now done, and if you guys can't decide which page to try out, I would mostly say that the Grasp page is better, especially if you're not that experienced with Tryndamere, but as As a general rule of thumb, you should go Grasp of the Undying against melee champions, and you should go Fleet Footwork against range champions if you can't decide. We're now moving into the item section of this guide, and as for starting items, you most of the time wanna go Doran's Blade with a health potion. Doran's Shield can also be used against certain matchups which are very hard early game, but overall Doran's Blade is the better choice. As for boots, you most of the time wanna go Berserker Greaves. Berserker Greaves not only gives you the most all-in power overall, because you will be undieable during your ultimate, but it also makes you take towers faster and push waves faster as well. The two alternatives for boots are Mercury Threads against heavy AP teams, and if you're so ahead that you don't need extra damage, and the same goes for Ninja Tabis, but against AD teams instead. For some of you it might sound weird to build offensively when you're behind and build defensively when you're ahead, but the way Tryndamere works is that you either can kill your opponent in the all-in during your ultimate or you can't, so you have to decide depending on the situation if you have enough damage or not, and if you do, you can afford extra defensive stats. As for your core build, you most of the time wanna rush Blade of the Ruined King. If you're against any sort of bruiser top, this is the best rush item. If you're against a very squishy opponent, you instead rush Static Shiv. Static Shiv accelerates your power spike, and it also has better burst damage than Blade of the Ruined King, and is therefore better against squishes, especially ranged targets when you want to clear the wave as fast as you can. If your first item was Bork, your second item is gonna be either Static Shiv or Phantom Dancer. Phantom Dancer against other bruiser matchups which really challenge you in the all-in, such as Irelia or Jax, where you actually really need the extra all-in power, and Static Shiv against all squishy targets and even tanks. Your third item will be Infinity Edge, and if you started Static Shiv as your first item, your second item will be Infinity Edge. If you went the Static Shiv route, your third item will either be another attack speed item, such as Phantom Dancer, or you can build Blade of the Ruined King now if you need extra sustain or split pushing pressure. Your fourth item really depends on the game. It's either Phantom Dancer if you haven't built it already and you need even more damage, Guardian Angel if you want to be tankier, Randuin's Omen if your team really lacks a frontline and they build a lot of crit and AD, Mothman Morpheus if you face a lot of AP opponents, because then you will have probably rushed a Hex Drinker in lane anyway, Bloodthirster if they don't have any tanks but you still want extra lifesteal, or Sterix Gage if you don't need Ma but you still want to be tankier while stealing more damage. Now you guys know how to build Tryndamere and also how to set up the runes correctly. Now when it comes to playing Tryndamere, you really want to be focusing on split pushing most of the game. Some games it will be quite tempting to join in fights, especially if you're extremely ahead and you can see your team possibly winning the 5v5, but overall when playing Tryndamere, I would you guys rather to commit to the split push and have that solid game strategy of always having really high farm, being a really high level and pressuring the map through side lanes. With Tryndamere you will run Flash Ignite most of the time, because the extra kill pressure is absolutely needed on Tryndamere in my opinion, and so it will be quite hard for you to join in with your team. But overall this should not be a problem in solo queue, and you should be able to pull multiple opponents to the side lanes all of the time, generate a lot of pressure for your teammates, and in that way win the game. Thanks a lot for watching this video guys. If you have any suggestions or any questions regarding Tryndamere, feel free to leave a comment down below, but other than that, thanks a lot for watching. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and other than that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.